Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again. Today we're going to be checking out Blackwater Quarry, and by the way, this is just a little ways down the hill from the castle that we made not too long ago. But basically the story behind this was, it was a big giant area with a few trees here and there, but I just really had no clue what to put here, and I got quite a few suggestions, and my goal by the end of it was to try and include each and every one of them. I can honestly say as of now, not everything's here, but I think it's enough to at least show you guys, I guess, the first part of it. But yeah, as of now we have obviously the quarry or the mine itself, a tower, some cranes and whatnot, and also a little wagon up to the right hand side. However, by the time this is complete, I really want to try to add even more stuff, like maybe a witch's hut somewhere in the woods, at least once we get a few more trees in there. And I think one of the biggest things we need to get done is a few things that have to do with the water, like maybe a big bridge or even some ships. So if you're wondering why this place got the name Blackwater Quarry, it's because I felt that the water around here, or at least this part of the river, was definitely a lot darker than the part over by the main section of the city. I'm not really sure why that is. My only guess is that maybe it's because it's kind of down low, almost beneath all the hills and mountains surrounding it. So not only is the name very fitting, but it does add a cool bit of backstory to the area itself. Next up, if you're wondering how I went about making the whole dock area here, like I said, it's going to be the port section of this build, and as I mentioned before, there are going to be some ships here who will come in and dock and then load and unload a lot of the supplies and whatnot, and that's why there's many crates and boxes all around here. And you can see overall I have tried to go for a very randomized look, something I've tried out that's a bit different from, I guess, what we've seen in some of my builds in, I guess, past videos, is that I tried to mix up the dock materials. So not only is it just the spruce wood, but I've also tried to mix in some oak wood planks as well, and I think in the end it definitely added a nice bit of variety. And obviously for the ships who come in here, they're not going to be able to take all the supplies and materials for free. There's got to be some sort of deal or agreement that goes down, at least somewhere around here. But in the end I felt like doing it out on the docks wouldn't really be that formal or secure for that matter. I mean, there is a castle run by bandits right up there, so for all you know, you could be getting ripped off by some random dude who doesn't even work here. So that's why this tower was made, and not only is it, a place to make agreements and buy materials, but it's also a lighthouse that would keep any ships passing by from running into the shores. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this really quick. But anyways, on the first floor, you have, of course, the counter where all the deals would go down, and on here you can see there's a lockbox and then, a paper to sign agreements on and whatnot. And then if we move upstairs, there's a bit more storage for, some mining supplies and whatnot. So every bit of this little tower here has some sort of purpose or function, which I think is quite cool. Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot. It also leads up here to some of the other cranes. So that way the workers here could just take the stairs instead of, scaling up the rocks. But now that we have all that covered, we'll go ahead and take a look at the actual quarry portion of the build. And outside here you can see there's loads of stuff, such as tools, wheelbarrows, tons and tons of boxes and crates to not only hold materials, but also other tools and whatnot that the miners would need on a daily basis. And there's also these 3 big cranes, and on each of them I tried to make it look as if they were each hauling up a different material or set of tools or boxes. So you can see on this one it's completely enclosed, you can't really see what they're taking up. And then this here is a crane that lifts up all the tools and whatnot, and I figured that would go best right next to the tower since, as we saw earlier, that is where they're storing them. And then this third one here in the back just kind of brings up the raw materials that, I don't know, maybe we'll have some sort of smelter up here, and they can just use those to craft new tools, since I'm sure those break on a daily basis. And then lastly, down in here we have a little area for some raw material to be stored that would eventually get boxed up and taken up to the nearby wagon, or even out to the docks. And I also felt that the area above this was looking a bit too plain, so that's why I put in this big scaffolding here. And I think it really adds a lot of detail and just a unique look to the area. Aside from the name of this place, there actually is a little bit more backstory, and that's because there once was this mine here that went deep into the mountain, but then one day, I guess probably a long time ago, it ended up caving in, And you can see there's even a skull in here, so maybe someone got trapped. And there's also some water, so you can imagine that maybe since this was so close to the river, that there might have been some flooding every once in a while. And I guess you could say that was probably the main cause for the cave-in. But since then, this place has been converted into more of a quarry instead of a mine, and the workers here just continue to excavate it from the outside instead of doing it from the inside of the mountain. And last but not least, we do have the wagon, which, although it may not be the most beautiful and majestic wagon you've ever seen in Minecraft, personally I think it still does a decent job at filling in a lot of the blank space that was up here before. And one of my main goals with making this thing was to keep it as vanilla as possible, since I figured quite a few of you may want to copy it down and use it in your own world. I think the only blocks that you can't really use in the default texture pack would be the seat here, which, I mean, you could just replace that with a carpet, and in my opinion it would look just as good. And then I guess these crates and the small chest, but you could always just put something else there. Now, I know the Conquest texture pack does have, you know, some wheel textures of its own, but like I said, I did want to keep this very default, so that's why we have the big old chunky Minecraft wheels that you used to see all the time. But you know, as big and clunky as this wagon is, I still feel like it's very stylized and overall just fits the whole atmosphere of the area. But anyways guys, that'll do it for today, so hopefully by seeing this, you were able to maybe gain some inspiration or just some ideas in general for things you could use in your own mine or quarry. And like I said before, there is still a lot to be done in the area. I know I said I wanted to add some kind of a witch's hut and definitely a few ships out here, so stay tuned for those. And like always, if you guys have any ideas or recommendations for future builds or even some improvements we could make to the area we already have, I would love to hear those. But once again guys, hopefully you enjoyed the build, and like always, I will see you all in the next one.